And we're back here continuing our fourth annual Couch Coach Live Super Week as we continue. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. We got our guy, Shawn Mears. When I first met you, I used to call you Coach. And I don't know if you remember when I used to call you. So what's going
Right?
on,
Yeah.
Coach? So yeah, we
hmm
got a great show lined up. How you doing? How you doing,
I'm
Shawn?
doing well, man. Thanks so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure seeing you again. I think the last time I saw you, it was 4,800 screaming uh, students in the Siegel Center. So,
Yes, that was such a good experience. That to hear that crowd and just the energy that they brought, and it was a really cool event. They do this every year. That
yeah,
I think you muted. I think I thought okay.
I told VCU this is the one time that you'll be able to get me for, a very low prices for this kids game. So,
Yeah, and it was definitely fun. Obviously, with them winning in that game, but yeah, it was great. And of course, Shawn, we know you, and I'm gonna give you a nickname. I don't know if so it's kind of one of the things. I'm gonna call you the voice of the city. So I mean, hey,
I'll take that.
hey,
I'll take that.
hey, so we can coin that phrase if you want. I take zero credit, and you just
I,
pass the baton out,
I
you roll.
I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. And of course, Shawn, you're PA announcer. We'll talk about that a little bit later. PA for my alum, Highland Springs High School, VCU, just pretty much all over the area. I mean, you do colleges, UVA, Longwood University. I mean, William and Mary. You're everywhere when it
I
comes
am
to
everywhere.
the PA game here in this area, the 804 areas and beyond. So that when that, I guess what 864 is coming up soon. I mean, the next so
I
it'll
have to get used to that, right? I have to
be
get
in the
used.
804. I know, right? But yeah, so definitely want to talk to you tonight, and I wanted to so obviously like I mentioned earlier, when I first met you, you were was in the coaching game, so I used to always refer to you as coach. So I definitely want to get it started there. So I'll just talk about like pretty much your coaching career, and then also who were your influences in the coaching game.
Okay. Well, I started coaching back in 2002. That was my first opportunity to coach. I started off doing some rec league stuff because I had moved from the 757 area up to the 804. And so I didn't know anyone. And so the best way to get involved is to get involved in your local rec leagues. And so that's what I did. And I did that. And I met one of another person that you might know, Charles Scott, Coach Scott, which is now at Huguenot High School, and him and I coached together and for the Chalkley Steelers. And we ran through CQL. We won the Super Bowl. And from that season, that next year, I got to start with Tom Hall and Manchester with the Manchester Lancers. So I worked my way through there for about 3 years. After that, I ventured to Thomasdale High School with Coach Kevin Tucker. So then I was there for 3 years. I coached quarterbacks. Uh, I was there for three and a half seasons, and then I went to Henrico High School with Gerald Glasgow, and I was coaching quarterbacks and receivers there. We had quite a run there with Jalen Jones, Theo Chambers, Jihad Carter, just to name a few. Those guys are doing very well for themselves collegiately. And then from there, I went to Meadowbrook, and that's where I finished up my high school coaching career. And that's when I transitioned into announcing.
Yeah, and as far as you talked about a lot of coaches that you've coached under. So I'm not under, but as far as who you coach with, any other like coach influences that you had, like as far as during your time period, who was like the ones that you like the coach that you looked up to?
Coach Mike Leach was the very first conference that I ever went to. It was a coaching clinic, and Mike Leach was the keynote speaker. And of course, Mike Leach was the coach that was always known of carrying coffee. with him at practices and games. And so it was funny because I had a habit of doing that as well because I was running so much. I get a cup of coffee and show up to practice. So I felt the connection with him. And plus, we were both offensive coaches. And then it went on to Tony Franklin, which we ran the Tony Franklin system at Henrico, and a variation of that run and shoot system from Mike Leach. So Tony Franklin, which was the longtime coach at Cal Berkeley, he coached Jared Goff, which was is with the Detroit Lions right now. So those were the two guys that really influenced me coaching wise.
Yeah. And so, and we'll talk about the PA, and it's funny, like, as far as between your coaching and also you in PAing, we we kind of cross paths, but kind of like, one door in and out the other in a sense
Right,
where,
right.
so we definitely gotta talk about as you when you went to internet radio, and obviously we here at Couch Coach Live, we're both proud Legacy Internet Radio alums. So let's talk about
Absolutely.
your experience with Legacy Internet Radio.
Well, my start with internet with legacy internet radio started actually by accident. Fun, funny story because they had a show called Twa After Dark, which was on the air, and so at that time they needed an engineer, and I have an engineering background as far as I've worked sound, basically with several of the churches that I belong to. So they asked me to come in and help them, and so from there it took off to where the male counterpart to the original part of the Twa After Dark, uh, he had left the show, and so I was there, and I just kind of stepped in. So I was the third member of Twa After Dark for a while, and then that allowed me to have an off spin of my own show, which was called On the Hot Seat with the Coach. And shout out to Marcus J, because Marcus J gave us an opportunity that a lot of people wouldn't have done for us. And we were pioneers with this stuff way before these guys are now doing it. We were doing this back then. So they just figured out a way to monetize it, obviously, and do it better than what we did. So we just should have stuck to the game a little bit longer. But yeah, it was great doing legacy internet radio. It allowed me to interview some of the area. My show focused on um, area coaches and local legends that impacted the community in a positive light and that just didn't get that shine. Guys like Brad Byerson and and Malcolm, Coach Malcolm from Trinity. Um, he's a Hall of Famer. And he's the owner of the quarterback coaching undefeated quarterback. God, let me get my thoughts together. Undefeated quarterback is Coach Malcolm, and he was one of my very first interviews, and it was a great interview we had. We've interviewed Coach Scott and those guys when they were at Life Christian. They were doing a great thing that they now transitioned from the private school to public school, and Coach Scott has put over 60 kids in college, and so we tried to highlight that. That those are stories that the community doesn't get. It doesn't get on Channel 6 or Channel 12, whatever. So my goal back then was to highlight these gentlemen and ladies. I had ladies as well.
Yeah, and like you said, like you said, and that thing about with legacy is like it provided us a community. I think that's one thing too, where you don't get that as much as far as the different, as far as all of us came together as a unit and just like being able to like be on each other's shows and stuff and what have you. And I think because I left when you came. And
Right.
I remember listening, one of the episodes I remember. Like I said, I love like prep sports and all, and like I said, the legends. Like it was this gosh, the kid from around him with the NC State. Alan Mike is it Alan Michael
Alan
Cash.
Michael Cash.
Yeah,
Yes.
yep. I remember that interview. Yep. And then, like you said, Malcolm is I call him the quarterback whisperer in 804.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, Malcolm was, and it's funny because I remember Malcolm in high school, and so to see him grow into what he is now, to be a Hall of Famer at NC Central, to now winning the state title at Trinity as offensive coordinator, to run in the undefeated quarterback league, which has produced all the area's top quarterbacks from uh, Christian Martin over at Highland Springs, which is going to Maryland, to Jalen Jones, who was down at Charlotte this last year, to the Cody Cody Shelton, which is now signed to VMI. I mean, all these guys have trained under Malcolm. So shout outs to Malcolm.
Yeah, big time, big time. So we're transitioning now to talk about your PA career, like as far as public announcing. Now, Matt, wanted to know, like, how did you get into and kind of how that lane started for you, essentially.
Well, that was accidental as well.
Right.
We were doing the podcast, and at the time, I had went to Henrico High School to watch a playoff game. And shout out to Rob Welch, who was the athletic director at Henrico at the time, which is now the director of facilities at the new Henrico Recreational Center located where the old VCC building was. If you haven't been there, go check it out. Um, but he told me like the guy was sick, and he said, "Hey, can you just start the national anthem for me?" And so I said, "No, I'll take my stab at it." And I did the entire game. Of course, I butchered every last name, but I know the game, and I seem to have a better voice on PA, of course, as so it just worked. And so from there, I had a couple more opportunities with Henrico High School, and that's when uh, Harry Lee Daniel over at Highland Springs asked me to come and do football. And when I did football, after that, I had another opportunity. I was uh, doing some work at VCU Orthodontics, and I think it was the assistant athletic director came in there to with one of the players to get an MRI, and I just sat down next to him and I asked him. I said, "Hey, who's your PA announcer?" And he said, "It's funny you asked because we're actually looking for one." And I gave him my card. We had a conversation on the phone. He invited me to a basketball game, showed me around the facility. That next baseball season, I worked 18 of their 20 home games, and the rest is history. After that, I just marketed myself, and I ended up with somehow 4 Division I contracts in 3 separate conferences, and it's to those people that say, some people stop at 1 Division I school, you know, so. It's just an opportunity. So it's just like with players. Why should I stop at one if I can get it bigger and better? And so I always put on my post, on Richmond's biggest stage, because right now that's what it is, and so to have, 4,500 or 4,800 screaming kids, at every beck and command, that is the rush is indescribable.
Yeah, yeah. Like we said, that was such a fun event. And it's like you said, it was. I wish they do this more. As far as annual, I know it's an annual event, but we gotta do this about 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, they should.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now as far as is there as far as from the PA side, is there like any influences, mentors that you have?
Yeah, actually, when I got into it, it was funny um, because I'm a coach by nature. The first thing I wanted to do was research, and if I'm going to do this, I'm going to doggone do it. I'm not going to play around with it. I'm not going to be the guy that just shows up, grabs the microphone, and says a couple of good catchphrases that they heard on ESPN. That's not the kind of person that I wanted to be. I wanted to be the kind of person that, what, let me hone my craft, let me master it as best as I can, let me use the things that I've been blessed with, and let me use the audio capabilities that I've also learned over the years from working sound to project my voice a little bit better, to enunciate a little different. And from being in media, it's just not reading. You know, you really have to speak to the fans to get them to understand. Because if I talked into that microphone like I read a piece of paper, you wouldn't understand it because it wouldn't project across the arena acoustics that way. It would come across jumbled and mumbled. So it really takes time to perfect, the different acoustics from being outdoor football. And that is a tricky, tricky thing because you have outdoor acoustics. You can't hear what the people on the other side of the field hear. There's a 3 or 5 second delay from what you're saying to what they hear. So you have to slow everything down. It has to be cut and concise. Like, people don't understand why, like, when I leave with a script, it's all marked up, and it's because you have to break things down in segments. You know, attention fans, pause. The concession stand is open. Pause. Go get your drinks, chips, nachos, beer. You have to, I would not talk like that in regular, conversation. But when I'm a PA announcer, I have to slow everything down. Things have to be said in a certain way, has to be emphasized on certain things. And by God, you better get these names right.
Yes, you are definitely right about that. And like you said, and it's funny because it's almost, and I know, like, on the other side of it, to me, I almost prepare like it's almost like it's a game. It's like it's like it's me being in the game again. Even though I've never like played, like, as far as a sport, like in high school or whatever, but even like more like intramural, like. But like it kind of gets you, like, it's almost like you said, doing the research and all that. It feel like you're getting ready for a game, like, like you're playing in the game more so anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, as we speak, I just got an email notification for the rosters for the Stanford UVA women's lacrosse opener on Sunday. And so that's imperative. And that's the other thing that I want to get on the soap. Can I get on my soapbox for 1 second?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
It's imperative that, in a professional sense, once you've gotten the information, now I can respond in the best of my ability, right? But,
Yep.
like, for instance, I did a high school senior night for a different high school, and I had handwritten half sheets of paper for their senior thing, mom, parentheses, Dorita. I'm like, okay. And then I'm flipping like, oh my God. And then God forbid I said somebody's name wrong. And I'm like, I'm only reading what was, this is what she wrote. I didn't write it, and the, the pressure to get everything right is so immense. And so when people are giving you, especially the speaker, something that's handwritten and last minute, and it's terrifying almost because you don't know what this slip is going to be. Is it going to be a license plate number? Cool, I can handle that. you know, but
Yeah.
if I'm at a high school and it's 5 minutes before tip off, and then the coach gives me a handwritten roster.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've learned too, where the enunciation guys, some do it and some don't, and I love that when I get that enunciation one, because like you said, when I go into the presser, you're like, oh God, like, am I gonna say this person's name wrong? That's like you said, that's such an inherent fear. But like you said, obviously, I've been very fortunate enough where the majority of the teams I've covered, they had an enunciation guide.
Yeah.
And like you said, that is clutch. Like, because you do not, like you said, you do not want to butcher somebody's name.
Oh no.
But like you said, but sometimes you are put in a circumstance, and like you said, in an instant where you don't have the time to maybe go on. Like I use sometimes go on YouTube and do like enunciation, how to enunciate this. But if you in the midst of doing something like you're doing like now, and somebody slip you something now, it's like I don't have time. You want me to say this to you right now?
Right.
We're gonna have a problem.
Right.
So
And by the way, I give you kudos because you ask very good questions, man, in your post game interviews. I was watching your interview last week that you did with the ladies, man, and hats off to you, man. You ask good questions.
thank you, man. Definitely appreciate it. So as far as, and I know we talked about, and speaking of like last week, I know when we talked last week at the BC women's game, as far as loving that event, having 5,000 in attendance. Any other events that you PA that you would deem like it's your favorite?
Um, you're right. Besides that event, it would have to be the ACC field hockey tournament last year. Um, I tell you what, man. Some places know how to treat you when you walk in the door, and the ACC is one of them. You know what I mean? I don't know what your experiences have been with doing ACC athletics, but every single time I do an athletic event for the ACC, I mean, I just feel a certain kind of way when I come and when I leave. And it's just a certain thing that it's the feeling that you get. When you walk in the door, like you feel like you belong, and I feel like I belong in the ACC. I do. And the ACC field hockey tournament, which was held at Charlottesville this year at the University of Virginia. Um, all 3 days was just immaculate. The way they treated the players, staff, I mean, it was top notch. Everything from the blue rooms for us, you know, which are clutch. There's nothing like a bad blue room that only has like water or maybe or peanuts. We've had this before. To where you go to the ACC and you just got whatever you want. Literally, it's like walking to a convenience store.
Yeah, I feel you. I know it's some events like you said that I like like a vending machine where I ain't gotta put no money in. But
Right. And the other event too, I must say, if I could add a third one to that,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
um, I'm a longtime supporter of all women's athletics. I'm a big Title IX supporter. You know that. Not for me just doing all women's athletics at the various schools that I work for. But I've also do PA for the the Richmond Black Widows, and which is the local women's tackle football team. There's also the River City Sting and the Virginia Panthers, which are down in the 757 area. But all of those ladies tackle football is a big sport. It's rising here on the East Coast. And those games are always fun to see the ladies get down and dirty and play the game of football. And with them, they're playing the game of football in such a way that there is no, um, it's pure. You know what I mean? It's so pure because they're all learning it. Um, so it's such a great. If you've never been to a women's tackle football game, you gotta go out and support these ladies. They work hard, and their moms, their wives, their aunties. It's great. So that's another thing that I really do try to support them and put them first on my schedule every year if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely need to go and check them out again because I think last time I was when they played at Hubby Field, and that's been many moons ago. But yeah, I definitely got to go and check them out. This season started already, I think. So yeah, I definitely need to.
It's gonna start in April, I think. The first games for them.
Okay, yeah, I definitely got to go out there and check them out. Yeah, so we got the big game coming up on Sunday between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Your thoughts on the game, and then also I need a Super Bowl winner and an MVP.
Well, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm a Patriot fan, uh, old time Patriot fan, not one of these bandwagoners. I'm having to see my therapist most football season now because I went from first to worst. I don't have a dog in the fight. However, being just a football fan, this is going to be a phenomenal game. This is actually a rematch of a few seasons ago when Patrick Mahomes won his first Super Bowl, I think it was, against Jimmy Garoppolo. He was the quarterback there. So San Francisco walks in now with different pieces. They had Mostert back then, and now they have McCaffrey. Uh, Garoppolo was the quarterback. Now they have Brock Purdy. So Mahomes had a tight cheetah,
Yeah, yeah, Tyreek. Yeah,
Tyreek Hill back then, and he had Paris Hilaire as the running back. Now he has Pacheco, and he has like a host of different receivers. So it's different teams, same coaches. So I think it's going to be a great game. Uh, my heart, my heart wants San Francisco. My money is on my homeboy. Yeah, I mean, I'm really tired of like I'm a kind of guy where I honestly, if it's not my division, then I want it to be the other guy's division. I don't want it to be nobody in my division if it ain't me. That's
I feel
that's
you.
the
I feel
Patriot.
you.
That's the Patriot fan in me. Like if it's not the Patriots, then it's the other guy. So I could care less about everybody else. But no, seriously. Um, my money's with Kansas City. My heart, you know, the Brock Purdy story. He's Mr. Irrelevant. Christian McCaffrey finally gets to leave Carolina to go and get one so he can join, his dad as a Super Bowl winner. And Debo Samuel, he's by God probably the best athlete, on the field. And George Kittle, everybody forgets that he's a Pro Bowler as well. People don't talk about him as much. George Kittle's the key. I think if San Francisco is to win this football game, George Kittle has to have at least 6 touches and 60 yards of offense with at least one tutty. He has to touch the paint one time for San Francisco to win this game.
Yeah, big time. So I asked you $1 million question. What's the score, and then who's going to be the MVP of Super Bowl 58?
Uh, 27-24, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish it were reversed, but I can't. I just can't bet against that guy. There's certain guys you just can't bet against. And Brady was one in his day.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning was another one in his day. If you saw him on the TV screen, I want to know who you're betting against. If you're betting against those guys, there's
Right.
certain guys that you just don't willingly bet your money against, and Patrick Mahomes is just one of those guys, man.
Big time. Yes, indeed. Like you said, yeah, you cannot count on Patrick Mahomes. And that's the thing. We kept on doing this the whole year. Oh, they're gonna be on the road after the wild card round. And what they do, end up, going to Buffalo and then going to Baltimore the next week, and now they're here in Super Bowl 58. But yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like you said it'll be a great game. And yeah, man. So we'll wrap up the show. So Shawn, where they can find you, social media, and plug anything that you got going on going forward.
Well, here we go. You can find me on social media, all social medias at Shawn Mears. Uh, on Facebook, you can also find me at ShawnMears.com. And in case you have any booking events, just remember I'm not just a sports guy. I also do weddings and bar mitzvahs. Now,
Hey, hey, that's a brand. It's business.
seriously, I've done 3 weddings so far. If you want your bridal party to be announced like a basketball team at their wedding reception, I'm your guy. Um, so, but seriously, we have women's lacrosse coming up. UVA versus Stanford kicks off the season on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday for me. And then I follow that up with William and Mary baseball. Opening day for them is on February 15th. So I'll be doing William and Mary baseball versus Dartmouth, I believe, opening up their season. So I'll be handling William and Mary baseball, the main duties, UVA women's lacrosse, the main duties. I'll also handle backup duties for VCU baseball, Richmond baseball, Longwood baseball. I think I'm running out of stuff to do.
Yeah, it is that time. It is baseball season. Craziest is thinking, but it is that time. But yeah, once again, definitely appreciate you, Shawn, for coming through, and we definitely got to have you on. As the year progressed at some point during the season, and kind of, you know, get you back here on Couch Coach Live.
Absolutely. We got to do this on baseball season because people don't know the one funny story about Coach Mears. I'm a baseball guy. So therefore, so yeah, we got to come back and talk baseball. Go Braves. Hopefully we don't choke this year.
I know, right? Ugh. I'm
Uh,
just, I'm just, I'm just hoping my Nats make some leeway. But I mean, the future's very promising. But we gonna see.
we'll see. Everybody starts off 0-0. So
Yes, indeed. But yeah, man. So definitely appreciate you, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. This rounds out our this episode tonight, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. And we're out.
thanks.